Have you ever looked over at the clock and groaned when you saw it? 3:12 a.m. Again. The room is quiet. The world is sleeping, but your eyes are wide open. Maybe you feel restless. Maybe you need to pee, or maybe it's just that eerie sense of alertness, like your body hit an invisible switch and decided, that's enough sleep for now. If that's been happening more often lately, you're far from alone. In fact, waking up in the middle of the night, especially around the 3 a.m. mark, is incredibly common in older adults. But just because it's common doesn't mean it's harmless. And that's what we're unpacking today. You see, there's a difference between age-related changes in sleep and signs that your body is trying to tell you something deeper. It could be stress, blood sugar shifts, or even an early red flag tied to your heart, lungs, or hormones. The problem? Most people brush it off as just part of getting older. But if you tune in instead of tuning out, you might just uncover the secret to better sleep and better health. Now, before we dive into the hidden reasons behind this 3 a.m. phenomenon, I want to say something important. This isn't about fear. This is about awareness. And the more aware you are, the more in control you get to be over your well-being. Waking up in the middle of the night isn't just annoying, it's a message. And we're going to learn how to decode it together. So if you care about staying sharp, strong, and independent in your 60s, 70s, and beyond, if you want to wake up feeling refreshed instead of worn down, then you're in the right place. Because what's really stealing your sleep might surprise you. And hey, if you find these kinds of topics helpful, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. That way, you'll never miss the practical, life-changing health conversations we're having every single week. Your support means the world, not just to me, but to our entire community of wise, empowered older adults who are committed to living fully, not just longer. Now let's get into it. One of the most overlooked reasons older adults wake up around 3 a.m. is actually blood sugar. Yep, your glucose. You might think blood sugar issues are only for diabetics, but here's the truth. As we age, our body's ability to regulate glucose overnight gets less stable. Even a slight drop in blood sugar during the night can trigger the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. And guess what those do? They wake you up, often suddenly, often around 3 a.m. What's tricky is that you might not feel shaky or low in the typical way. Instead, you just feel restless, wide awake, or like your sleep snapped in half for no reason at all. And what makes it worse? Having a light or early dinner, skipping carbs altogether, or drinking alcohol before bed, which can crash your blood sugar a few hours after you fall asleep. So if you've ever thought, I didn't eat much last night, but I keep waking up, that might be why. One thing that can help? A small protein-carb snack before bed. Think a few bites of banana with peanut butter, or a small piece of toast with a slice of turkey. It's not a cure-all, but for some people, that one change keeps their blood sugar steady enough to sleep through the night. Now let's shift gears a bit, because sometimes the reason you're waking up at 3 a.m. isn't in your blood. It's in your mind. Chronic stress, especially the kind that lingers just beneath the surface, loves to show up in the middle of the night. When everything is quiet and your body's distractions are turned down low, that's when your nervous system has space to process all the stuff you pushed aside during the day. And let's be honest, after 60, you've got a lot on your plate. Health changes, family responsibilities. Maybe retirement isn't what you expected. Maybe you're carrying emotions that never had time to land before. So what happens? Your brain wakes up when your guard is down, whispering worries when the world goes still. This kind of wake-up is usually paired with a racing mind, maybe a little tension in your chest or jaw, and that frustrating sense of, I'm tired but I can't go back to sleep. Sound familiar? You're not broken. Your body's just trying to unload a full emotional inbox. So what can help? Here's a tiny shift with big payoff. Keep a notepad by your bed. If you wake up and can't fall back asleep within 15-20 minutes, don't lie there stewing. Jot down what's circling in your head. Don't edit it. Don't analyze. Just get it out of your system. And before you try to drift off again, breathe deeply through your nose. Hold for 4 seconds and exhale slowly through your mouth. Repeat a few times. You're signaling safety to your nervous system, and that's the key to falling back asleep. Let's take a moment to breathe right now. Inhale, hold, and exhale. There's more to cover, and more light to shine on why 3 a.m. might be showing up for you again and again. If you're still here with me, thank you, because continuing this conversation is where real change begins. Waking up in the middle of the night doesn't have to be a mystery or something you just accept. There are patterns hiding in plain sight, and when you learn to spot them, your nights can become peaceful again, not unpredictable. Let's talk about another reason older adults find themselves wide awake at 3 a.m., one that most people never consider: core body temperature. Here's something most sleep guides forget to tell you. Your body temperature naturally drops during the night, especially during deep sleep. That drop helps signal your brain that it's time to stay in rest mode. But after age 60, that regulation system starts to glitch. Your body becomes less efficient at holding onto that sweet, cool zone that keeps you asleep. The result? You wake up, often without realizing why. Now, what's really interesting is that it's not always about being too warm or too cold. It's the change that wakes you. That shift in temperature can nudge your brain awake just enough to jolt you out of sleep, especially around that 3 a.m. window, when your core temperature hits its lowest point. So if your blankets are too heavy, or your pajamas don't breathe well, or your thermostat runs on a timer and gets warmer in the early morning, you're more likely to find yourself staring at the ceiling wondering what just happened. A simple fix? Try sleeping with lighter, breathable layers rather than heavy blankets. Keep your room slightly cooler. Around 18-20 degrees C or 65-68 degrees tends to be ideal for deep sleep. And if you tend to get chilly, keep a folded blanket nearby that you can pull on if you need it. But don't trap heat all night. Speaking of heat, we need to touch on something else that sneaks into your 3 a.m. wake-ups: bladder signaling. It might feel like a small thing, needing to get up and use the bathroom. But if it's happening regularly, it can wreck your sleep rhythm and make it harder for your body to enter those deep, healing stages of rest. And here's the twist. It's not always about drinking too much water before bed. As we age, changes in kidney function, prostate health for men, and bladder sensitivity, especially in women after menopause, can all team up to create what feels like urgent signals, even when the bladder isn't full. Some people even wake up at 3 a.m. before they feel the urge, and then only realize they have to go once they're fully awake. So what can you do? Well, first, don't dehydrate yourself out of fear. That backfires fast. Instead, shift your hydration to earlier in the day. Try to get most of your water before dinner. And keep a log, yes, really, of how often you wake, what time, and how urgently you need the bathroom. If it's becoming a nightly pattern, talk to your doctor. There are solutions, medications, and even simple pelvic exercises that can help regulate this without disrupting your entire night. Let's take a deep breath again. Inhale, hold it. Now exhale slowly. Now let's shift into something that's harder to talk about, but even more important: emotional residue. This one hits home for so many people over 60. You've lived a full life. You've weathered losses, transitions, disappointments, changes in roles. Maybe the house feels a little quieter than it used to. Maybe your partner sleeps soundly beside you, but your mind won't settle. Or maybe you're sleeping alone now, and the silence feels heavier in the early hours. These emotional imprints don't always show up in broad daylight. They creep in when the noise dies down, when your brain is no longer busy solving daily tasks. And that's when you wake up at 3 a.m. feeling uneasy. Not anxious exactly, just unsteady. This isn't weakness. It's human. And it's a powerful reminder that sleep isn't just physical. It's deeply emotional too. If you've experienced grief, loneliness, or even just a major life transition in the past year, that could absolutely be showing up in your sleep patterns, especially in the quietest hours of the night. Journaling, soft music, a guided meditation, even just whispering aloud to yourself that you are safe, that you are healing, that you are human, can be enough to soothe your nervous system back into calm. You don't have to solve everything in the middle of the night. You just have to give yourself permission to feel, and then rest. Let's sit with that truth for a moment, because when you give your heart just a little space to breathe, your body follows. Let's keep going, because we're uncovering things that most people never talk about when it comes to sleep after 60. And the next one? It's a sneaky little signal from your liver. You see, many people assume that if their sleep is broken, it must be a brain or mood problem. But the liver plays a far bigger role than you might think, especially when it comes to those wake-ups between 1 and 4 a.m. Traditional Chinese medicine actually maps this out quite clearly, labeling 3 a.m. as liver time. But even outside of that framework, modern science supports the idea that your liver is doing some heavy-duty detoxing in the early morning hours. And when it's struggling, due to fatty liver, blood sugar imbalances, medications, or alcohol, the ripple effects can wake you up without warning. Have you ever noticed that your sleep is lighter, more restless, or downright interrupted after eating a heavy dinner or drinking alcohol late at night? That's your liver talking. It's asking for a little grace, a little space to do its job without getting overloaded. And as we age, our tolerance for metabolic stress goes down. Even one glass of wine too close to bedtime can disrupt your liver's processing and send cortisol up just enough to stir your nervous system awake around, you guessed it, 3 a.m. So, what can you do? Eat dinner earlier. Avoid snacking 2 hours before bed. Cut back on alcohol, especially late in the evening. And consider asking your doctor about your liver health, especially if you're on multiple medications or have a history of high cholesterol, blood pressure, or glucose issues. When your liver is supported, your sleep becomes deeper, quieter, more restorative. It's all connected. Now let's talk about the role of cortisol, the stress hormone that your body releases to help wake you up in the morning. Normally, cortisol starts to rise gently around 4 to 6 a.m. so that you feel alert and ready to take on the day. But when your cortisol rhythm is off, due to long-term stress, inflammation, or blood sugar drops, it can spike too early, which means you're suddenly wide awake at 3 a.m. with a restless mind and racing heart. And here's the kicker. Cortisol can rise even when your life doesn't feel stressful. Your body might be in a reactive state because of blood sugar swings, pain you're not fully aware of, or unresolved tension from your day. You may not even be thinking anxious thoughts when you wake up, but your nervous system is on high alert. That's why a calming evening routine is so critical in midlife and beyond, not just for falling asleep, but for staying asleep. Soothing your nervous system before bed actually sets your internal clock to respond more gently when it's time to rise. That might look like stretching for 10 minutes in dim lighting. It might be herbal tea, a warm bath, or slow breathing with your hand on your chest. It might even mean journaling out your racing thoughts before your head hits the pillow. The key is to find your version of calm and practice it like a ritual. Because how you spend the last hour of your evening writes the script for how your 3 a.m. self will feel. And when your body knows it's safe, it stays asleep. Let's take a breath here. Inhale, hold, and release. You're doing something powerful right now, slowing down long enough to listen to what's really going on beneath the surface. That's the beginning of change. Not fancy hacks, not complicated supplements, just awareness and a little curiosity about what your body's been trying to say at 3 a.m. all along. When you're ready, we'll keep peeling back the layers, because the most frustrating wake-ups often hold the most valuable clues. And the next one is one of the most misunderstood of all. Now, there's something most people wouldn't expect to be tied to 3 a.m. wake-ups, but once you hear it, it makes perfect sense. I'm talking about low blood sugar, that shaky, fluttery feeling you get around that time of night, the one that sometimes leaves you wide-eyed, maybe even a little sweaty or jittery, heart beating faster than it should. It's not always a bad dream or stress. It could be your blood sugar dropping too low during the night, and your body hitting the panic button to wake you up. This is especially common in people over 60 who have insulin resistance, prediabetes, or are on medications that affect glucose. But even without a diagnosis, our ability to regulate blood sugar weakens with age. We don't store energy overnight the way we used to. And the result? Your body senses that drop and responds by releasing cortisol and adrenaline, just enough to jolt you awake. So how can you tell if this is what's waking you up? Notice the pattern. Are you waking up around the same time every night? Do you feel a bit anxious or hungry when it happens? Do you fall back asleep easily? Or does your mind race? Here's a simple strategy you can try without making drastic changes. Have a small protein-rich snack about 30 minutes before bed. Think a boiled egg, a spoonful of nut butter, or a few slices of turkey. This helps stabilize your blood sugar while you sleep, giving your body the steady fuel it needs to make it through the night. It's not about eating late. It's about supporting your body in its healing hours. Because sleep is when repair happens. It's when your brain washes away toxins, your immune system resets, and your cells quietly rebuild. But none of that can happen if your body is stuck in survival mode at 3 a.m. Now let's talk about something a little less physical, but just as powerful: grief, loneliness, and emotional unrest. Waking up at 3 a.m. isn't always about hormones or blood sugar or organs. Sometimes it's your heart, your spirit, the weight of things you've never said, never healed, or never let go of. You might fall asleep just fine, but somewhere in the middle of the night, when the world is quiet and the distractions are gone, your inner world gets louder. Thoughts you pushed away all day finally rise up. Maybe it's the loss of someone you loved. Maybe it's regrets you carry. Maybe it's just the ache of feeling alone, even when you're not. And it's okay. It's more common than anyone talks about. 3 a.m. can be a lonely hour, but it can also be an invitation to breathe, to listen, to notice what part of your life is still asking for your attention. If this resonates with you, consider having a journal next to your bed. Not for deep analysis or dramatic entries, just a place to put the thoughts down so they don't have to live in your body. When you feel that 3 a.m. ache, write a line or two. Let it out. There's no shame in needing a space for your feelings. It's actually one of the healthiest habits you can form, and it might just soften the edge of that wake-up call. Because sometimes what wakes us isn't a symptom to fix. It's an emotion to honor. Let's take another deep breath here. Inhale, hold. Exhale slowly. Your body is always trying to bring you home to yourself, even when it interrupts your rest. The more you listen, the more peace you create. And there's still one more piece to this puzzle we haven't explored yet. Something that might sound simple, but holds incredible power over your sleep. Now, before we wrap this up, there's one more root cause behind those early morning wake-ups that gets brushed off way too often. And yet, it might be the simplest one to start fixing. It's your sleep environment. Yes, I know. At first glance, that sounds too basic. But hear me out. As we age, our bodies become more sensitive to light, sound, and even subtle changes in temperature. What wouldn't have fazed us in our 30s or 40s, like a blinking light from a charger, a subtle creak from the radiator, or the room getting just 2 degrees cooler, can suddenly be enough to rouse us out of the deepest phase of sleep. Especially at 3 a.m., when melatonin levels begin to drop and the brain is transitioning toward lighter sleep in preparation for morning. And let's not forget the role of comfort. Worn-out pillows, a mattress that doesn't support your joints anymore, pajamas that trap too much heat. These small discomforts add up in ways your nervous system absolutely notices, even if you don't consciously. This is why it's worth asking yourself a few gentle questions. Is your bedroom as dark as it can be? Do you wake up sweaty or cold? Is there a subtle light or buzz that might be keeping your brain on alert? Try using blackout curtains or an eye mask. Lower background noise with soft earplugs or a white noise machine. And most importantly, check your thermostat. For most older adults, the ideal room temperature for restful sleep falls between 18 and 20 degrees C, 64, 68 degrees C. Cooler rooms help your core temperature drop, signaling your body that it's time to stay asleep, not wake up. It's not about perfection. It's about creating an environment that gives your body the best possible chance to stay in deep healing rest. And if you've made these changes and still wake up at 3 a.m., don't be discouraged. That awareness you now carry, that you're tuning in to what your body needs, is already a step ahead of most people. You're no longer brushing it off. You're looking closer, asking questions, and honoring what your sleep is trying to tell you. Because that's what this conversation was really about. Not just 3 a.m. wake-ups, but listening to your body, to your mind, to the signals that aging brings not as warnings but as invitations. Invitations to rest smarter, to tend to your emotional landscape, to nourish yourself more intentionally, to advocate for the peace and restoration you deserve in this season of life. Waking up at 3 a.m. isn't always a problem, but when it becomes a pattern, and especially when it comes with physical or emotional symptoms, it's your cue, your body's soft nudge that something inside needs adjusting. And the truth is, you don't need perfect sleep every night, but you do need to pay attention to what's waking you. Because the more you understand the why, the more you reclaim the how. How you heal, how you strengthen, how you show up fully rested and ready to live the days still ahead of you. So here's to your nights being peaceful, your mornings being strong, and your body feeling like home again. You've done something powerful just by being here. And I hope tonight or tomorrow morning, when that quiet moment arrives, you'll pause, breathe, and remind yourself, this is your body talking, and now, you're finally listening.